Okay, I'm playing it up. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I'm going to have to take a cough. I've got a cough. No, I don't. Just in case. I'm taking a cough drop just in case. Okay. Well, hello everybody. How's everybody doing? Can you hear me okay? I'm getting a cough drop out as we speak, so in case I start choking, I'll pop it in. My apologies. I've got a bit of a sore throat, and you know, as if my voice isn't deep enough, I'm sure more people will be answering the phone when I call and saying yes, sir. So, well, I'm out of it, but we'll make it through. Well, thank you so much for coming out. And I know I've totally interrupted some people's coffee mornings here. And we've got some great people trying to read and study, so thanks for letting us interrupt it. And we did have a lot of nice conversations with folks as I walked around the room, but I just wanted to give you a quick update on some of the work that's going on in DC and also here in district, catch you up on kind of the last end of year activities, and then answer any questions you have. My apologies, is there a better place for me to stand? Oh, thank you. This is fire? Oh my God, I'm going to be on fire over there. All right, I'll do it just for you people. Yeah. It's hot over here. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, can we turn this thing on? There we go. All right, and I'm comfortable. I got my kicks on today. Okay. Thanks so much for coming out. Listen, we all know that we've got a big year ahead of us to make sure that Iowa gets what it needs, and certainly that we move this country in the right direction. So Happy New Year. I'm ready to begin the fight to make sure Iowa continues to have opportunity. And thank you so much for coming out. I think this is my 64th Connect with Your Congresswoman, helping me to stay the most accessible freshman member of Congress. And I told most of you who I met during my race that I was here to work for every single person in this district. I don't care what letters behind their name, Republican, Democrat, Independent. I want to make sure that our voices are heard. And that means my job is to go out and talk with folks in the district, which I've been trying to do since I started running for this office, but certainly in my official capacity, holding all of those events throughout last year. And you know what? I've been able to go out and meet with folks no matter what industry they come from, no matter if they're in rural or urban areas, and hear about the issues that we're facing here in Iowa. And one of the great things about being able to do that means that I go back to Washington with incredible information about the issues that we're facing, along with ways that we can solve those problems. Because there's no better way to think about how we can make things better than by going out and talking to the people who are affected by them, but they also know where those answers lie. Now, the smartest people, I say, come from Iowa, and I certainly believe that. It's given me an opportunity to bring these issues back and write bills that will help us with rural health care, that ensure that we make sure that we have good oversight of our child care facilities, a bill that I wrote, to background checks on that when I heard about the issues that we're facing here in the state. Certainly issues related to climate, to ensure that our farmers can continue to have good yields and better nutrients in their soil, but also move us towards a clean environment. And absolutely issues to put money back in people's pockets and reduce the cost of prescription drugs. So I go out to visit with all of you so I can hear your concerns and take that information back with me and write some bills to make that happen. So getting on to those topics, a few of the things that we completed at the end of last year. I was really proud to see us put forth one of the most impactful prescription drug bills, H.R. 3. Hopefully you've heard about that, the Elijah Cummings prescription drug bill, in honor of him. It allows us to negotiate the most expensive drugs within Medicare, the top 250 approximate drugs, and then take that negotiated cost and extend that out to every single American. We're expected to save with this bill somewhere between $350 billion and $700 billion over the 7 years that it's going to be implemented, and then continued savings after that. So this bill not only allows us to negotiate the cost of those drugs finally, and in the first year, folks, that's insulin, because we know how badly that's hurting people, but it also allows us to cap out-of-pocket expenses for folks on Medicare, out-of-pocket prescription drug costs at no more than $2,000, which is a great move in the right direction. And then it will include a provision so that as Americans, we no longer continue to pay a lot more than other countries who have our same drugs that we actually use our taxpayer dollars to research and develop. So it caps that at 20% over what any other country pays for the same drugs that we produce here. So that's all great. That's all savings in people's pockets. That's thousands of dollars of savings for all of you. But the even better part is that we're going to take those savings and we're going to put it back into research for diseases within the National Institute of Health. We've got some great advocates here for some of our diseases. Yes, absolutely. But even better, folks, another great thing is it will add to Medicare coverage for vision, dental, and hearing. How about that? So that bill, right now what's happening is that bill is done in the House. We're so excited about it. It's a bipartisan bill. We did get some Republican support for it. The Senate is putting together their own bill, and if you'll look at both of those, it's not nearly as forward-thinking as the bill that we've got in the House. It won't eliminate as much cost. It does have some savings, but I'd ask you to push our senators in getting them to support H.R. 3 and a provision that will really help your family.
They haven't listened to anything I've written our senators for the last 3 months.
Well, I will never stop encouraging people to continue to push the agenda forward. And at the same time that we're working on those big bills in healthcare across the country, I'm trying to make sure that states like Iowa aren't overlooked. So I've written multiple bills to increase the numbers of residency, co-sponsored number of bills as well, to increase the numbers of residency slots here in Iowa. We've got states who don't use all of theirs, but here in Iowa, we use all of ours. We need to be able to pull from those states and have more residency slots here so that we have physicians that will come here and stay in our underserved areas. That's one bill that I've been a co-sponsor. Along with multiple bills to really address the issues in our rural communities. And I've had a lot of folks as I came here this morning talk to me about some of the issues in our rural parts of this state. And I'm so grateful to hear you say that, because I hope you all understand how intricately we are woven together with the rural parts of this district. And it's so important that we don't just support opportunities for places like Des Moines and Council Bluffs, but we look to places like Greenfield and Creston and Mount Ayr. Yeah, there we go. Places who truly have felt like they've been forgotten. And I'll never forget one of the first stories I heard when I went to Ringgold County. This was way back when I was running. The folks told me they had to pool their money together to buy new street lamps for the town square, because there's just not enough resources, local resources, for them to be able to keep their community safe, well lit, and to be an enjoyable place for them. So they literally pulled money out of their own pockets to take care of something that if we saw here in Beaverdale, we'd sure expect to be fixed within 24 hours for the safety of our community. So folks, we do have lots of parts of our state that have felt like they've been left behind. And my job is to ensure that they've got a voice out in Washington. And so I'm writing rural healthcare bills on the physician shortage to close the reimbursement gap rate for rural health clinics who only get reimbursed at about 80% if they're not owned by a hospital, to ensure that we keep critical access hospitals in our communities so that we do have a place for people to go with emergencies and to get healthy, so that we can continue to have OBGYN services in places like Atlantic, where it took us a year to find a new OBGYN doctor, and we're very worried about being able to continue that service. But I'll tell you what, if we can't do that, we're going to see people who can't move into those areas because they're saying, how can I have a healthy family? And I want everybody to remember how important our rural communities are, not just to Iowa, but also to this country. And if it takes me every last breath, I'm making sure that my colleagues understand the value of places like Iowa. So I'm making sure that every gosh darn person who's in Detroit knows that every ball bearing for every Ford Explorer is made right here in our district. And that's why they need to support rural broadband, because without it, we're not going to be able to continue to be competitive to help them be successful. And so they need to literally understand why we are so important to their objectives. When folks are talking to me about climate change and the need for us to improve some of our activities here in states like Iowa, It's another opportunity for me to fight for rural broadband, because I talked to them about precision agriculture and our ability through drones and the ability to pull down information that lets us look at every square inch of land that a farmer has, let's say 2,000 acres, and determine what input is needed for water, for pesticides, to reduce our environmental footprint, to ensure that we release less carbon into the atmosphere. All of these things are so important to our entire country, but unless people out there understand how integral we are to their needs, they have a hard time getting behind some of the issues that we've got. Well, I'm nothing but loud and proud about what's happening here in Iowa. So I've been able to start turning that ship around in Congress, and certainly with the help of my fellow colleagues Abby Finkenauer and Dave Loebsack. We've been able to be a considerable force in making sure that Iowa gets what it needs. So whether the speaker had Abby and myself in talking with AFL-CIO President Trumpka towards the end of the year to ensure that the USMCA was passed, to make sure that we could give some certainty to our farmers here in Iowa, but protect labor at the same time, she pulled us in so we could be a voice to say, we understand how important it is that labor is protected, that we protect our environment, but gosh darn it, we got to get this bill passed really quickly because our agriculture communities are suffering. So she said, we need your voices here to make sure that that passage goes through, and we were there for that. That's how important Iowa's voice is in all of this. We got a biodiesel tax extender passed. They've been trying to get that through for 3 years. Couldn't get it done with an all-Republican administration, House and Senate last time around, but you put a good, hard-working couple of Democrats in there, and we're going to make sure that we get that biodiesel tax. And I think I freaked Senator Grassley out a little bit, because when I got on a plane coming back just before Christmas, I said, hey Senator, high five me on those biodiesel tax extenders. And he's like, what? But the plane got a big kick out of it. They liked to see it. And you know, he said to me, and we've been working with the speaker a lot, there was at one point on the floor where she turned around and grabbed my shoulders and said, I know, USMCA and biodiesel tax extenders. And so as I got on the plane after our high five, he said to me, I just want you to know that I had a really good opportunity and time working with the speaker on getting this biodiesel tax extender package through. We had a great working relationship, and I'm really proud of what we were able to come up with together. And I said, oh, Senator, that makes me feel so good, because the speaker literally said the same thing about you on the floor just 6 hours earlier. So folks, bipartisanship is still in fashion. We are absolutely trying. And I think there's no better place to start than with the folks here in Iowa. So I'm going to continue to try and push for the issues that we're facing, those things that help us economically, those things that are so important for us to put more money back in our pockets, whether it's continuing to push for more trade schools and apprenticeship programs and lower that gap that we've got in the state right now, where almost 60% of our jobs are that middle skill job area. Great paying jobs, 2-year degrees, trade school and apprenticeship programs type of jobs, but we only have about 35% of our population that can fill those. So we've got to start fixing that gap so young people and those who want to go back and get retrained have an opportunity to move themselves into those jobs. It's why I held a student loan debt roundtable the other day at Grandview University to make sure that we're addressing those issues. It's why I'm working on affordable housing issues, where I just was out doing a roundtable in Council Bluffs yesterday to get with them to understand how we can better bring housing out to that community that people can afford, that they can have a life of dignity, that their children can have success in living under a roof that provides them not just a safe place to live, but a place where they can feel proud about where they're from. And all of that instills a sense of purpose in our young people. So I'm going to continue to push for those social justice issues, that housing, healthcare, addressing climate change, that affect the most vulnerable among us, because those are the ones who are most impacted when we're not thinking about the greater good and how we can look at the issues that we're facing and ensure that we close that equity gap that we see here in this country. And I've got an opportunity on the Agriculture Committee to work on our next farm bill to make that happen, but certainly on the Financial Services Committee where I sit. And every single day we're trying to address those issues, make sure that there's access to capital for rural entrepreneurs. I wrote a bill on that. Ensure that we don't exclude minorities from home ownership. Make sure that we've got access to capital for people who might not normally get that so they can grow their businesses. These are all really important to folks like me who sit on financial services, who understand that if we can level the playing field, if we can make it where everybody does better, then everybody does better, which is the philosophy I grew up with, then we can see a much better future. So I'm going to be in there for the long haul. Y'all know I've got these sharp elbows from 6-on-6 girls basketball to keep, doing what we need to do for Iowa. I'm going to be there for the long haul. As long as I can stay in this seat, I'm going to stand up for what's right for the people here in this district. I'll leave you all on this. I know that it seems that right now in this country there's a lot of divisiveness. There's a lot of folks who don't believe that there's much hope left. There are people who literally tell me that they can't get up and watch the news in the morning anymore because it just is so unhealthy for them and stresses us out. But I want you to know that what you see in me, and I've had a lot of folks say thank you so much for what you're doing. There's so many other people out in Congress who are fighting for this just like I am. And we're going to be in there for the long haul to make sure that your voices are heard and that we protect this great country of ours and make sure that we're fighting for every single person in it, not just those who come from well-to-do zip codes, but raising everybody's lives up in the process. So thank you for coming out. Thank you for participating in the democratic process for this country. And I'm just grateful to have everybody come out to listen to what's going on here today. And thanks for all you do for our communities. And I'll be happy to answer any questions now.
One of the things that we are very passionate about is that two of the things. One, thank you for your work in rural America. We really appreciate that. The other thing is that it has come to light that prescription drug companies are spending twice as much on marketing to us as consumers than they are on research and development. Also, our drugs are subsidized by the federal government on research and development, so they are taking that subsidy and putting it into marketing directly to us, which we can't go down to the store and buy what they're recommending. So I would like to see a prohibition, basically, like we have done with liquor and cigarettes on prescription drug companies that they cannot advertise on TV. I think doctors support that also.
Yes.
Listen, I appreciate that. Unfortunately in this country, Big Pharma has had way too much opportunity to get in and disrupt the system. It's one of the reasons why I don't take corporate PAC money, because I don't think that we should be beholden to organizations like Big Pharma. And unfortunately, we've got folks on both sides who do take that money and who sometimes don't put our needs ahead of their re-election. I think we're seeing a change in that with folks that are coming out to Congress. It's why people like me and some of you might know my friend Katie Porter, because she's a fellow Iowan. She's been back here a little bit. Myself, Katie, Max Rose out of Staten Island, Gil Cisneros, Josh Harder, Lori Trahan, and Tom Malinowski. We set up the End Corruption Caucus. We decided, my goodness, there's a chicken caucus, there's a vegan caucus, there's a cigar caucus. There's every dark caucus, but nobody apparently thinks we need to root out corruption in this place, except for us. So we decided that we would put together a caucus, and we're going to work on actually addressing some of these internal issues that are keeping us from being successful, and looking at policy that needs to be changed that doesn't work for America. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I can tell you one thing with HR 3, they're not going to be able to have as much profitability to use for those types of things to influence Americans. What they're going to be able to do is provide drugs at a price that we can all afford. And that's why we need to pass HR 3. It will also help with this issue. Yeah.
So, you talk about ending corruption, okay? Is it possible, in your opinion, to end corruption in the face of Citizens United? Is that possible?
Listen, here,
I just
yeah.
Citizens United was passed, I mean, it just seemed like our trajectory just went boom, and it's obscene, It really is.
Yeah, it really, the dark money that's involved in politics is absolutely
Powerful.
It's terrible. Do I believe that we can root out corruption with that? Absolutely. There's a lot of things that processes that have been able to folks to take advantage of them throughout the years because we haven't looked at how structures are set up within some of the ways that we're getting things done in the halls of Congress. So yeah, I think we can. Will it take care of everything? No, because we do need to get rid of Citizens United. We need to end Citizens United, absolutely. But until that time comes, we're going to do everything we possibly can. We wrote H.R. 1, our first bill, out of the House last year, exactly to address integrity of our elections, to give every voter a voice, to address gerrymandering in this country, and to take this big money out of politics. I'd ask you to go back and look at that. We felt that our most important thing to do as new congressional members was to set the stage for a Congress that people could trust. And for a Congress that would hold itself accountable. So our first #1 bill was to literally lay that strategy down and show Americans that we meant it when we said it, that it's time to get big money out, it's time to give every voter a voice in this country, and it's time that we put an end to people being able to buy politics. And so I couldn't agree with you more that needs to go, but I'm going to try everything I can as we move towards ending that to do what we can in the process.
Climate change, climate crisis is utmost important to me. And I think I like the idea of city folks, farmers working together. And so please speak to us about what's the interest out there with farmers in regenerative farming. And I think that we should give them some monetary assistance on that too.
Well, you're talking my language. Okay, so the question was really about climate change and what we can be doing for our farmers and our ag community, and basically saying that we should be giving them some support to move towards more regenerative ag. Couldn't agree with you more. So we've got obviously we're working on a lot of climate issues right now. We're actually putting together a big climate bill in energy and commerce, and it's the one that I'm feeling really excited about. And I've already started having conversations with Representative Tonko, who's the subcommittee chair overseeing that bill. It's going to be a very comprehensive net zero emissions by 2050. All of the things that we know need to go into it regarding cleaner appliances, electric vehicles, etc. But it also helps us address issues in a way that we haven't had before. One of the things that was important for me was to make sure Iowa had a voice in this bill. And so when I heard about it, what I didn't want was another bill that was a climate bill that really wasn't hitting the issues that we needed to address here in Iowa, and quite honestly could put us in a bad position because they were crafted by people who really don't understand row crop states and what and the industry in general, and for some folks who really don't even believe that they don't think that farmers are trying to do the right thing. I know in Iowa, coming from a 5th generation. And my family's coming from farm families, our farmers are the best stewards of our environment. We've got a lot of policies in place that limit them from being as successful as they would like to be. So this bill is going to be really impactful. And I already started the conversation with Tonko, got him all excited because I said, I'm concerned about these bills that we've been putting out there related to climate where they're not addressing states like Iowa. But we've got so much opportunity in Iowa to continue with wind and solar, and told him about my background in overseeing the Energy and Environment Plan and helping make Iowa #2 in wind production. I said, exactly to your point, we should be subsidizing and helping farmers move towards opportunities to have implements that can actually capture carbon, take it back to a location, convert it to energy, battery storage then to help us store the energy and then be able to sell that across our region. We should also be able to purchase that equipment so that we can sequester that carbon, so that we can control tillage levels, so that our farmers can actually have rural broadband. That's one of the key pieces of this as well, so that they can get that precision agriculture and start limiting the amount of inputs they have. I talked to him about our opportunities here with what we produce to capture methane and convert it to energy. So the opportunities are literally right here. Increased support in solar and wind as well. And we've got what I believe to be our biggest economic opportunity coming to work as a result of working on regenerative agriculture and sustainable agriculture to improve our climate. Our farmers are ready for it. They know that we can't keep keep ignoring this. They're seeing increased droughts and floods and new pests because of a slight temperature change. So it's impacting their ability to get the yields that they would like. So we might not always agree on how it was caused, but we certainly have agreement within the agriculture community that it does need to be addressed. And we've got a bill out there that I'm telling you, I'm working really hard to make sure that agriculture, exactly to what you're saying, starts receiving some benefits as we make that transition, as opposed to having some of these bills where people said, that's just a bad industry, you need to change, and not understanding that we're all in this together, and we need to make sure that we transition in a way that can help our farmers stay alive as well. So we're working on it. I think it's gonna be exciting, and you're gonna see that coming out this year.
We have time for one more question.
My question deals with immigration. There's two parts. What's the current status of DACA? And second, do you sense any hope at all for this year to move in a positive way on immigration reform? So DACA, where are we with that?
You have a House majority that obviously supports a pathway to citizenship for our DACA folks. And then but it's not going to move anywhere. I mean, this is, we're not going to get any movement within this current administration. We're trying everything we possibly can to ensure that refugees who come to this country lawfully have that opportunity, are treated with dignity. We're just talking to some folks here earlier about the issues that we still have on the border, as we're managing that to ensure that those people are treated with dignity and get the services that they need, the things that they just need to feel like a human, but also to have the legal services to move them through the system and ensure that they're being protected. We're continuing to work on all of those issues. But I'll be honest with you, we're not going to see any solid immigration reform until we get a president in place or a Senate in place that understands how important this is, and not just looking at piecemealing things apart or sticking up a wall that's inefficient and not a good use of taxpayer dollars. So we're going to keep trying to push for that, but I just don't see this as moving anywhere. I'll be honest. I hate to leave on a negative note like that. Marty.
Cindy, I just want to thank you for all you're doing. You are one heart.
Well,
And I know how hard it is to work on all those issues, and I appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out today. Really appreciate it. Follow us on Facebook or Twitter, or go to my official website, sign up for the newsletter. You can see about the work that's being done here in district, as well as the bills that I'm working on out in Congress. So please take a look at that, sign up, so we can continue to keep you informed. Thanks for all that you do for our community. I know there's so many people in here that work so hard to advocate for things, and I'm grateful for all you do, because we couldn't be doing it without you. So keep coming and pressing us to do the right thing, and I'm grateful for all the work that you do to make our community better. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the 50 degrees.